Wednesday, July 28th, 2010. Joining me in the meeting are Paul Koretz and Bernard Parks. We have a quorum. And Mr. Koretz has an announcement to make.
I just want to acknowledge the presence of my two top advisors, my nephews Aaron and Jared Erdman, who are here from New York. So,
welcome.
So get to see us in action, and glad to have them here.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz, and we saw your lovely wife, I think, a few seconds ago.
Yeah, she's around too.
She's around as well, so that's real sweet. We're going to go to public comment first, and we'd like to ask Ray Jahadi. Did I say that right? Jahadi. Welcome. Come on up, and also Dr. Clyde Williams, but you're up first.
Good afternoon, sir. I ride bus 423 commuter.
Tell us your name again.
Sure.
For the
My name is Ray Jadali. I ride Commuter Express 423 for the past 20 years almost. And unfortunately, this bus constantly, they are late. I have spoken to folks at LA DOT. I have spoken with the folks at the maintenance yard at Van Nuys office. One of the milestones is that the bus has to be at the Topanga and Ventura, which start basically from San Fernando Valley all the way to downtown. It should be at Ventura and Topanga at 5:56. It's always late about 8 to 10 minutes. Today was 22 minutes. You know, if I get to my job every day 10, 20 minutes late, I'll be fired. And I don't like that. It's not one day, it's not 2 days. If 50 passengers can be on time every day at 5 o'clock, why not one single driver can be on time? I spoke to LA DOT this morning. I asked them what is the procedure for a bus to leave the maintenance yard. They said they start the bus 15 minutes before the departure. So I said you have 15 minutes float time. If the first bus, which they were claiming did not start, so you have 14 minutes to go to the next bus. So if you are 22 minutes late, you already lost the 15 minutes float time. And on the top of it, you are 22 minutes late. So it's almost like there's no checks and balance. All we're asking, if everybody says use a public transportation, I've been doing it for 20 years. I even submitted a plan on 2006 to this committee, about 7 pages with all the problems, solution, recommendation. I spent almost a week, did almost 7 pages study, and nobody up to this date even responded back to me. I mean, I said, use me. I even work for you on my float holiday, on my what you call the fellow day, free, no charge. I would come to your maintenance yard. I would come to your DOT transportation, whatever they wanted. There's a lot that I know because I've been driving for 20 years, and I'm not asking for too much. Again, if 50 passengers can be on time, one driver should be able to be on time. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, appreciate that. Just a question for you. Is it in traffic that it takes it late, or is it?
Council member, at 5 o'clock in the morning in 101, you don't have that much of traffic. The second problem is that you cannot have everyday traffic. I've been riding this bus for 20 years. The past 2 months, with one particular driver, which is a female driver, it's been late every day. There are other drivers, on the other hand, that they are on time. So my problem is that how come driver X and Y can be on time, why not the A and B and C somebody's on time, the other person is not. It seems like it really is a matter of managing the drivers.
Okay, I appreciate what you said. Will staff please, Mr. Fisher just walked in, the number 2 man in the whole department. Why don't you just go sit with him for a second, get that information, and then get back to my office and let me know if the department is responding.
I volunteer my time. I have no problem. I have made a proposal, 7 pages,
okay,
and nobody even responded.
Mr. Fisher will talk to you right now. Thank you very much. Dr. Clyde Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams for 115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Also, I've been involved in the 710 for a very long time, since about 1991. And transportation in El Sereno has been a major issue. However, during the last MTA meeting, they canceled various monies, including $1.2 million from what is called the connector road from the 710 up to Alhambra Avenue Mission Road. No explanation, no consideration. We've been waiting on the EIR and other aspects of that particular element for 5, almost 10 years. Pasadena, South Pasadena has used their money from the feds and state and MTA for mitigation and multi-mode processing. However, LA City hasn't, and apparently we've lost at least 1.1 million, maybe even more. We don't know because there's no accounting regarding the monies that came from the feds that was supposed to be for mitigation of the delays in the 710 gap closure, and we don't know what's going on. We've heard many things from many different people, but in writing. So I ask that maybe the committee can instruct the DOT to resolve what the situation is regarding the 710 multi-mode gap closure mitigation projects that were supposed to be done during the last 10 years. And it wasn't part of the grade crossing or anything like that. That's a separate issue. So we're just wondering.
Okay.
We've been at it for a long time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. Is there someone in staff that can meet with Mr. Williams about this and get a better understanding of it? Yes. Okay. Would you make contact there, Doctor, and let's see if we can work this out and resolve it. Thank you for coming up. Colleagues, on consent, it's being suggested that 1 and 2 on the regular agenda would go on consent, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the special agenda. Because there are some errors in the dates on a few of these PPDs, we will move these items if it works. The clarification that the PPDs are renewed for 12 months from the expiration date, and also directs LADOT to work with the city clerk to make these corrections. That's item 1 and 2 on the regular agenda, and items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the special agenda. Does that give comfort?
Sure.
So moved, and second by Mr. Parks, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Parks, unanimous. We will move it in that direction. Item number 3.
Item number 3 on the regular agenda is the DOT report relative to the Congestion Management Program 2010 Local Development Report.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen of the committee. I'm Miles Mitchell with the Department of Transportation, and every year this is basically my one time before you.
Well, we'll have to make it more
We'll
frequent.
back to make it more. That would be fine with me. Anyway, we come here every year with this local development report, and basically the report has 2 parts. It is it's a routine report, basically required by the CMP program administered by Metro. And the first part is a CMP conformance self-certification resolution, which has to be adopted by the City Council and sent over to the MTA by September 1st. And then the second part is a statistical summary of development activity for a 12-month period, basically June through May, June 2009 through May of 2000, May 31st of 2010. And so again, it's something we do every year by complying with the CMP program. The city receives gas tax subvention funds in the amount of about $25 million every year. Those funds go to the Department of Public Works, and the Public Works Department distributes those funds throughout the city for transportation-related projects. So this is the CMP program, frankly, is the cost-benefit analysis here is very good. We go through these steps and we receive $25 million approximately every year. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
That's 3 of them for the record. You've answered them, but let's just, focus. So compliance with the CMP ensures that we're eligible for approximately $25 million in gas tax money, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And currently, we're only required to report on local development activity, correct, not the reporting of traffic mitigation projects and programs?
That is also correct. That's right.
And third, and the reporting of traffic mitigation projects and programs is on hold while a countywide nexus study is conducted to evaluate if the countywide traffic fee could be implemented, correct?
That's right.
For the lay folks out here and those listening to us, exactly what was this meaning to the public when we say this?
This report?
Yeah.
Well, the CMP program is an important program. It was adopted in 1993 by Metro, required by the state, and we've complied with it, as do the other 88 cities in LA County. It's basically a four-step program. We adopt the ordinance, the self-certification ordinance. We did adopt in 1993 a transportation demand management ordinance, which is still in effect. Every other year, we conduct a traffic count of the largest 47 intersections in the city, and we submit that information to Metro as well. And then we as we're doing here today, we compile a summary of all development activity, and we submit that too. So it's a way of monitoring the congestion in the county and in the city in particular, in our case, and for that we receive the gas tax money.
Mr. Parks, Mr. Kretz, any questions? Mr. Kretz.
Yeah, how are we constrained in terms of the use of the $25 million that we get? What does that typically go to?
Well, it is sent by the state to the Department of Public Works in the city. It goes to, again, a variety of transportation-related uses. Bureaus receiving the funds are the Bureau of Engineering, the Bureau of Street Lighting, Bureau of Street Services, and the Department of Transportation. And I don't know specifically which projects, that it's all part of the own specific internal budgets to those bureaus and departments, but that's where the money is directed.
So we're obviously allowed to use it for a broad variety of projects.
I think we have a lot of discretion. That's providing, I'm sure there are restrictions that it be used for transportation-related mitigation and so forth. And improvements, but other than that, we probably have a lot of discretion.
Thank you.
Mr. Parks, let me ask, when do you think that nexus study will be done, being that these things are being put on hold?
Well, just a little update on the nexus study. The Metro completed a draft congestion mitigation fee feasibility study report in April of 2008. And so Metro had that report done. It was completed in April of 2008, a feasibility study. Metro adopted the report, and for approximately the last 2 years, from 2008 until now, Metro has been conducting an outreach program to discuss the program with the various cities in the county, and to also ask the cities to begin developing a project list, transportation mitigation projects that could be funded by the fee if and when it is adopted. And with specifically the Nexus study, that's a separate analysis, apart from the feasibility study, but work has begun on that already at Metro. And one of the goals is to determine and this is tricky, to determine new development's share of traffic growth and corresponding fees that would be applied to new developments.
They have a time, is it a year? I mean, being that they're holding these, suspending indefinitely these mitigation projects, so that we have an idea when the Nexus study will be completed?
This has been going on, as you know, for 6-7 years, and I don't know. It's controversial, very complex. They're trying to avoid potential litigation. Very difficult to come up with something that's going to make 88 cities happy. So I don't I don't know for sure.
Okay. And then let me ask you, on the gas tax money, I think a pretty good portion of that is used to pave our streets. But how is that going to affect us with the state revamping gas tax money and turning it into excise tax, which doesn't have the same level of scrutiny as far as paying it back? How does that affect these programs and others?
I'm not sure. We briefly discussed that in pre-T yesterday, and the state budget situation, what they're going to do with the gas tax, we don't know yet. But there could be changes in terms of this program, and
You assured the 25 million, or could that 25 million get wrapped up into the new excise tax?
I couldn't say for sure. That's part of budget.
I'm just saying, is it this
Budget.
fiscal year that this money is coming out of, or is it?
If someone over there has any better idea, maybe they could speak to this, Mr. Hirano. I'm not familiar with what's happening with the gas tax money in terms of budget negotiations and so forth.
Councilmember, David Hirano with the Office of CAO. In regards to the CMP portion of the gas tax, we don't actually know what the impact is going to be yet. We do know that the change in the gas tax that you're referring to has resulted in one major change, and that is in the state's ability to redirect the money away from us.
But it's all for 10, 11? All of these changes are 10, 11, or
Yes,
does it impact 9?
Going forward, yes, correctly. So it would be effective this budget year. So we're watching to see what the impact will be potentially on us as the state moves through its budget deliberations, and obviously preparing to help the city try and retain
A portion of this 25 million could be in jeopardy.
I can't tell you that. We don't know at this point. It could be the whole allocation for gas tax, or it could be a portion. We'd have to get back to you on that specific question.
Do you have any sense from Mr. Parks' point when we might get a better sense of it? I know the governor just announced that he's going to get 3-day furloughs a month starting next month. A certain group of government employees, I know that they're still unable to get their act together. I hear that Chung is going to have to do the IOUs again. It looks like we're back to where we were. Will this obviously impact us on that?
Well, obviously, we hope it won't impact us, but we do not have anything new than what you're reading and what you're hearing at this point. So I know Mr. Koretz and some of the others may have some contacts up there. If you have any more news than what we have, we'd be glad to hear it as well. So
Nothing new yet.
okay, thank you, sir.
Let me ask another question on Prop A. We've set aside money to do the front loading. for these projects.
Prop C, Measure R, is that what you're referring to,
I
or
thought it was Prop A money.
Prop A is transit?
Am I looking at the right thing? I thought Prop A was the front money for this. No, I got confused with another one. Okay.
Okay.
Before we make the recommendation, Dr. Williams, do you have a card in for this one? Dr. Williams?
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. Basically, I'm here to see what this is all about, because we're trying to figure out what's happening to the transportation, and basically everything from I-5 to I-10, Northeast LA. And we find that the corridors of Valley, Huntington Drive, Figueroa, San Fernando Road, all are being done in a somewhat piecemeal basis. We don't know what's going on, and that's a major issue. And we're just trying to find out, oh, there's a countywide deficiency plan? Well, we didn't know that. And I don't think a lot of the things are generally known. And I think DOT should involve the neighborhood council systems for all of its benefits and detriments involved in it, to get them involved in it. The other day in council, there was the Tiger 2 projects, and MTA has a call for projects, and we're finding out that from the grassroots, we can come up with projects that we need, that we can solve specific areas, such as a U-turn at Van Horn and Huntington Drive, a better stacking lane for Eastern and Huntington Drive. All sorts of things that are small projects that could be done easily, hopefully by city employees. But we need to know how it fits with the rest of the system. And most of the neighborhood councils have no contact with the DOT except for Glasgow Park and Cypress Park, because they have a San Fernando Road widening, a Riverside Figueroa roundabout, a North Spring Street Bridge projects, all of which are in process, but we don't know how they fit.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, appreciate that. We don't have any further questions, but I'd like an update from you at a future meeting on the status and issues related to the implementation of the countywide traffic rate. Can we count on that? Okay, and so my recommendations are, colleagues, to approve and transmit the 2010 CMP confirmation self-certification resolution and local development report to Metro.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you.
We'll come back soon with an update on the CMP,
Good.
the congestion mitigation fee program.
We look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Okay, the next item is item number 4, which is the CEO report relative to a one-year contract amendment with My Transit Plus for the continued administration of DOT Citywide program.
Good afternoon, David Haran, the CAO. Before you have a request from the Department of Transportation for an amendment to My Transit Plus contract. The current contract is a 5-year contract. This would extend the term by an additional year and an additional $1.3 million. The total amount under the contract would be about $7.9 million. My Transit Plus is the citywide program coordinator, and they get involved in managing the program, helping determine eligibility, registering clients, providing them assistance, determining what transit options are best for them, distributing fare media, and statistical reporting and so forth. So Jim Lefton from the Department of Transportation is here to answer any specific questions you have.
Okay, let me go through 5 of them rather quickly. Did My Transit Plus reduce their contract amount 10% last year per the council request?
My Transit Plus, Jim Lefton with the Department of Transportation. My Transit Plus agreed to a 5% reduction in April of this year, and as far as the new contract extension is concerned, they have agreed to a 10% reduction,
In the future contracts?
starting with the next year.
What happened with the hardball for the 10%? How did we get away with 5?
Well, each contract obviously is different in terms of whether they're making a profit, how much profit. In this case, they were willing to go with the 5% right away, and we've continued to work with them and giving them that strong arm, and we've got them down to a 10% reduction now.
And by 10%, what kind of real money is that?
For next year, it'd be approximately $130,000.
How much?
For next year, it's approximately $130,000.
Great.
It's a $1.3 million contract.
Okay. And do we have any option to extend an additional year for fiscal year 2011-12, or is this only a 1-year option? Do we have an option?
We're only asking for 1-year extension.
Right.
We're going to get started on working on a new RFP. If there is a need, we can, but we don't anticipate that need.
And when will this RFP be issued, do you know?
We're just now finishing up, as you know, major changes to the Citywide program, as well as our other programs based on the recent budget-saving measures that you adopted in June. So now staff will be focusing in on working on this RFP.
So that means we will have a new contract awarded and in place in advance of the next fiscal year.
That's the plan, yes.
Very good. Colleagues?
Let me just ask on the issue, so if we're saying 10% going forward, and they've already done 5, so it's 15% on the contract?
No, it's from 5 to 10, so it'll be for this entire year of this new contract extension that we're asking for, it'll be a 10% reduction over the 5th year amount.
But that's the extension year?
Yes.
Okay, but I think you mentioned earlier that there was a 5% reduction. Is that on the current year?
That's for from April until the end of August, and finishing up the 5th year.
So it would be accurate to say there's been 15% over the 2 years?
No.
Or is there double?
I think that's double counting.
Well, I think the 5% is only for a partial year, so it'd be less than
It was a portion of the year.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was the remaining portion of the contract.
Yeah, just,
Right, so the remaining portion of the fifth year is the 5%, and then for the sixth year, again, and in addition to a 10% reduction, it doesn't include any cost increases going from the fifth year to the sixth year. Some contracts may include a COLA, and then backing off that COLA by 10%. My Transit Plus agreed to no cost increase from the fifth year to the sixth year, and in addition, a 10% reduction on top of that.
And now they are, if I understand it, a management administrative function.
Yeah.
They're not out driving the buses, they're
No.
coordinating.
They're basically hand-holding all of the citywide clients, helping them to register, to provide them with the appropriate subsidies that they're asking for, answer questions, et cetera. It's a
And
good
then-
contract for us.
Okay. And then this is what I was thinking about earlier on Prop A. This is part of, was it included in the cost-saving budget that we just approved?
Yes.
Thank you.
See, I got a fine point there, you know. That's a good budget committee, I might add. Mr. Koretz.
So on the 10% cuts, now it's not exactly on point, but how are we doing generally in terms of transportation contracts? Are we getting pretty consistent compliance when we're renewing these kinds of contracts?
Well, we brought forward two extensions, this one and another extension for our marketing contract, and both contractors agreed to the 10% reduction.
Very good, thank you.
So I recommend that we approve the CAO recommendations for a one-year contract with My Transit Plus.
I'll move that.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
report. Now we're going to move to the special agenda, to item number 6.
Item number 6 is a CEO report relative to the 2009-10 Transportation Grant Fund Work Program.
okay, David Harano from the Office of CAO. Before you, on item number 6, you have a series of recommendations that we're asking your approval for to move money to projects that are grant funded and provide essentially match funding for these projects. These projects are projects that have been awarded to the city already and have received funding, and the city needs to come up with its match in order to continue the project and continue to receive the funding. All total, you have approximately $6.1 million, $6.4 million that's being moved around, and that's assumed in the budget, so there is no additional impact to the 9-10 budget. The report before you has a series of recommendations, 22 recommendations, I believe, we're asking for your approval of. In addition, when we compiled these 22 recommendations, we made a couple of small errors, so we're asking for some technical corrections to these recommendations. For example, on recommendation item number 1, the dollar amount is listed as $6,074,000. We would like it to be $6,095,000. In addition, there are 2 technical instructions for the Department of Transportation staff to allow them to more properly move money back and forth. And we provide those recommendations to the city clerk.
Yeah.
Hopefully you have a copy of those.
We do.
If any member of the public would like it, then get to see the city clerk.
I have 4 questions, but I'd like Dr. Williams to come up first to see if there's anything that he says that you could reflect on before I ask my question.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA, also on the Sierra Club Transportation Committee, and we have our arguments regarding transportation and mobility. But we're also concerned about call for projects and how to get in, and how the community can get involved in putting forward projects that we, as you might say, continuing experts on an everyday basis, morning and evening, have with particular areas within our residential areas. So we're concerned about how DOT circulates to neighborhood councils and other potential stakeholders to get community-based projects coming up through the system that can be involved into the call for projects to Metro. And we're looking at Metro separately from this particular activity, because we're looking at, myself, I'm looking at Northeast LA and corridor studies, and realizing that there's a lot of pieces there that change this, change that, change this, and you could probably get some improvement, and at least reduce the frustrations that many people have, the cut-throughs, the cut-arounds, and such like that. So we'd like to have DOT at least notice to the neighborhood councils in a timely fashion. They call for projects schedules and when they would need submittals and the character of the submittals. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I appreciate that very much. My questions are, why does the report contain no front funds for departments as it has done in previous years?
Will Halverson, Department of Transportation. Beginning with the 2009-2010 budget, funding for overtime as well as regular salaries was included in departments' budget appropriations. Therefore, there was no need to move money on an interim basis through the Transportation Grant Fund report.
Let's see. Since this applies to the 2009-10, did the late approval of the funding transfers affect any projects?
No, they did not.
Why not?
We basically had an awful lot of the cost in these projects involved design, and as a result, the labor costs were already included in the department's budget, so the projects could go forward. Basically, these transfers are basically to enable contractors and buy materials for projects in construction.
Were any unanticipated reimbursements identified through the development of this report?
No, there were no unidentified or unanticipated reimbursements identified in the preparation of this report. However, as we did prepare the report, we did note that there are things that are methods that we need to implement to make the city more efficient in the use of its cash, and that is why we are suggesting the two recommendations that are being added to get money back into Prop C so they can be used to forward other projects.
Very good. My last question is, will the department be able to submit the 210-211 report by January as instructed in recommendation 22?
We are highly confident that we will be able to do so. One of the reasons for the delay in this report was that due to the change on the 2009-2010 budget, we weren't really entirely sure of how things were actually going to play it out. It sounded good in theory, but we wanted to make sure that there was sufficient salaries and overtime for the departments, and in fact, that was the case.
I see. Mr. Correct, Mr. Parks, any comments, questions?
I was just going to ask a general question on Prop C. I kind of forget when we dealt with it during the budget. What's the status? Because that's also in the deficit over the next several years.
Correct, but I think as we dealt with Prop C through the budget, we identified some Measure R money to help with the deficit situation. So,
I mean, but over the next several years, are we still in deficit on Prop C?
I forget the forecast.
I know it's not as bad as Prop A.
The forecast is not nearly as bad as Prop A.
Ken Husting, LADOT. Yes, Prop C is showing a negative deficit for the upcoming, I believe it's 3 years. But we have identified, as David mentioned, money from Measure R to be able to supplement Prop C, at least for this current fiscal year. And I believe that's in...
Measure R, that's going into specific projects?
Yeah, I don't know if the specific projects have been identified. I know that it is being identified for specifically the Transportation Grant Fund.
All right, thank you.
No questions, I just comment. I know there are a number of really critical small projects in this. The one I appreciate the most is our combining with Culver City to improve the off-ramps and on-ramps at the Robertson exit of the 10 freeway, particularly the one heading eastbound is one of the most dangerous intersections I've been aware of for decades, and I'm glad we're going to be able to begin to address that.
Yes, specifically, it's the I-10 Robertson study. Yeah, we've been working very closely with Culver City and Metro and Caltrans to try to get this project to move forward, and we are hopeful that we can go ahead and award a contract within the next, I think, 6 to 8 months, and be able to come up with meaningful traffic improvements that we can go after money in the future and improve this very convoluted area, because I know that's very circuitous for motorists going through there.
I mean, from start to end, how long do you think it would take to actually have improvements completed and have the whole process done?
Assuming that we can even get money for the project, that we're looking at probably about 3 years for the technical studies, environmental clearance, and then we have to go after trying to fund construction money. Assuming that we got construction money immediately, that may be another few years after that. So we're looking at probably in the neighborhood of 6 to 10 years.
And that's if everything went
That's
well.
assuming everything goes smoothly, we get money right away for construction, which is not yet the case.
Well, one hopes it all goes well, but I've been aware of how badly designed that intersection has been probably for 40 years of being in the vicinity, and I've seen a couple good crashes over the years, so I'm hoping we can correct that as expeditiously as we can.
We are too, very hopeful.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz, for that. Without any further comment, I recommend we go forward with this, with those two amendments that were suggested earlier.
I'd move that one.
Okay, so moved, unanimously done. Is there any other new business anybody wants to bring up? Any other further public comment that needs to be had? Seeing nothing, meeting is adjourned. Great evening.